Jeremy moved through the cell phone store with the practiced rhythm of someone who had long stopped caring. The strip mall lights blinked in the reflection of the plate glass windows, humming faintly with their sterile blue tint. The store smelled like plastic and screen wipes. Even the phone cases, arranged in their neat little rows by color and brand, looked like they were holding their breath. He was 43, divorced from his husband, and colder inside than February in Michigan. The Kalamazoo location had been open for 6 months, and already he felt buried under its fluorescent grave. The kids who came in couldn't tell a SIM card from a sales pitch. The parents were worse, exhausted, impatient, suspicious. He smiled when he needed to, nodded when he didn't. No one here knew he used to be alive once. He double-checked the till, clicked off the main lights, and headed toward the back room. There, the air shifted. Barely, but he caught it. Like a breath pulled in reverse. He paused, blinked. The corner where the old breaker panel stood rippled, the drywall behind it flickering, not with light but memory. For a second he felt pulled toward it like it recognized him. He should have locked up and gone home. Instead he stepped forward and fell into summer. The scent hit him first. Chlorine, cigarettes, fryer oil, and bubblegum. The echo of clacking pool balls sang in his chest like a heartbeat. He forgot he missed. He opened his eyes and stood at the edge of the Brunswick Zone lobby, watching a group of teenagers swarm the soda machine. His jeans hung lower. The skin on his hands was much tighter. He was slimmer, softer. His heart kicked once, twice. A glance into the mirrored wall confirmed what he already suspected. 16 again. Jeremy's reflection stared back with wild, skeptical eyes. The same mop of dark hair, the hint of acne along the jaw, the expression that always betrayed more than he meant to show. He staggered back 2 steps and nearly knocked over a rack of cue chalk. His eyes swept the room like someone searching for air. Then he saw him. Derek stood near table 7, tall and impossible, laughing at something, probably dumb, probably charming. His voice still carried over the music. Loud, thoughtless, beautiful. Jeremy's breath caught, not in a sentimental way, but like remembering an injury you'd convinced yourself had healed. Derek hadn't seen him yet. Jeremy's legs moved on their own, walking through the gravity of nostalgia, disbelief, and some small seed of hope he thought was long dead. The Brunswick Zone looked exactly as he remembered. Worn green felt, numbered tables, cheap light fixtures. It was more alive than anything he'd stepped through in years. The cue rack hadn't changed either. Jeremy pulled a stick from the wall, ran his fingers down its length. It felt warm from the room, not cold like memory. He picked a rack, set up the balls for an 8-ball game. Stripes and solids spun in their plastic triangle, settling with a dull hush. Everything inside him buzzed, soft, uncertain. Then Derek turned. Recognition flickered. "Hey, Jeremy, where have you been?" Jeremy stared. The sound of Derek's voice, still untouched by time, still hiding so much under its ease, pierced him in a way nothing else could. And Jeremy smiled. A quiet, unfinished smile. He chalked his cue. This wasn't a dream. It was something else. This was the moment before the break. And maybe this time, he could line up the shot he missed. Jeremy never knew how much of 16 he carried with him until he started wearing it again. The way his voice cracked when he laughed, the nervous habit of adjusting his sleeves, the instinct to watch Derek from across the table a few seconds longer than he should have. It all came back uninvited, vivid, loud. But this time he had perspective. The first few hours in 1997 were careful. He didn't ask about the future. He didn't tell Derek about wormholes or cell phone stores or years spent trying not to think about this place. Instead, he fell back into the rhythm of their shared routine, pocket quarters, order nachos, trash talk until the game got serious. Derek still ran the table like he owned it. His break was a thunderclap, scattering balls and drawing glances from the other kids. He moved with the loose confidence Jeremy always admired, controlled without caring too much. Jeremy let himself enjoy it. He gave smart comebacks, let the cues do most of the talking. They played 8 games. Jeremy won 3. Derek pretended not to notice the change in him. They shared greasy nachos at the same chipped table by the arcade. Derek wiped his fingers on a napkin and smirked. You get better behind my back or something? Jeremy shrugged. Figured it was time I stopped scratching on the 8. Derek laughed. The real kind. The sound curled in Jeremy's chest like something warm in winter. For a moment, it felt like this might work. Like they could rewrite it. Then a group of kids walked by. 2 girls, 1 boy. The boy wore eyeliner and a crop top over his jeans. Bold, loud, and probably scared, whether he showed it or not. A voice from another table called out, "Yo, gay parade's that way." Laughter followed, mean and practiced. Jeremy snapped his head toward them. "Shut up." The table went quiet. The boy kept walking without turning around. Derek didn't say anything. Jeremy sat back, heart ticking harder than before. He kept his tone steady. You ever think maybe people wouldn't be so angry if they didn't have to hide? Derek looked at him, expression unreadable. Why are you talking like that? Like what? Like some guidance counselor or something. Jeremy glanced down at the plastic tray between them. Maybe I'm tired of people laughing when they should be helping. Derek leaned back, arms crossed. Don't get all serious, man. This place sucks enough. I'm not trying to start anything. Could have fooled me. Jeremy looked at him. Really looked. There was a stiffness in Derek's shoulders that hadn't been there earlier. A flicker of fear behind the casual annoyance. And underneath it all, recognition. Not the kind you'd say out loud. The kind you bury and hope no one else sees. Jeremy pushed gently. You ever feel like you're holding your breath all the time? Derek stood. Jeremy blinked. What? You always do this, Derek said. You go quiet for days, show up with this weird energy, and start preaching. You think you're the only one who knows anything? I'm trying to be your friend. Derek grabbed his cue, shoved it into the wall rack. You're trying to make me into something. Big difference. He walked out before Jeremy could finish a sentence. The door slammed behind him. Jeremy stood alone by table 7, the break still echoing somewhere in his memory. He blinked. Fluorescent lights. Cell phone cases. The hum of the back room returned. The smell of nacho cheese replaced by lemon-scented cleaner. The past gone like a cue ball sunk too early. Nothing had changed. Except Jeremy. Jeremy stopped wondering if the wormhole had rules. He stopped worrying whether it would disappear. It always waited in the back room, silent, humming faintly behind the drywall panel like breath held too long. Every time he stepped through, July 1997 waited for him. The Brunswick zone lit up like it never left, and Derek was always there. The first few returns, Jeremy played it safe. He told himself he'd let things unfold naturally, but the truth crept in like humidity. He wanted change, not for himself, for Derek, for the past. One night, over the 3rd game of 8-ball, Jeremy leaned against the table and watched Derek line up with a shot. The overhead light turned his profile into something almost cinematic. Jeremy spoke quietly, without warning. I knew back then, he said. About you. Derek paused mid-stroke. Jeremy continued. You didn't say anything. Neither did I. We both knew, though. Derek fired the shot anyway. The ball clattered off the rail and missed. He stood straight, chalked his cue slowly. His voice dropped low. Dude, what are you talking about? I'm not judging. You think I care what you think? Jeremy stepped back. I'm saying you don't have to keep hiding. Derek snapped. You don't know anything about me. The cue smacked the wall rack. Stop acting like you do. He stormed off, leaving the game unfinished. Jeremy returned to the present empty-handed. That night he sat at his kitchen table, drinking water instead of beer. The silence felt louder. Next time, Jeremy changed tactics. If honesty didn't open the door, maybe vulnerability would. He stood by table 7, ran his thumb along the cue's worn grip, and told Derek the truth, this time about himself. I'm gay. Derek's cue hovered midair. His eyes darted across the room, checking who might have heard. Why would you say that out loud? Because I'm not scared anymore. Derek shook his head, eyes wild. You think you're helping? This isn't brave. It's selfish. Jeremy took a step forward. It doesn't have to be this way for you. You don't get to do this, Derek hissed. You get to be proud and walk away. I have to stay. The sting from those words followed Jeremy back to his apartment like a bruise beneath the skin. Another attempt. This time, Jeremy said nothing. No confessions, no interventions. He just showed up every night that week. They played 9-ball instead of 8-ball, Derek's preference, less predictable, more flow. Jeremy focused on rhythm, geometry, the click of ball against ball. He laughed more. He made Derek laugh too. But something faded anyway. Derek started showing up late. Then not at all. One night, Jeremy played alone under the familiar hum of overhead bulbs. He sank the 9 early by accident, a win that felt like failure. He returned to the present, unsure whether he'd done too much or too little. And yet, something inside him was different. His co-workers noticed first. Jeremy, who used to bark orders and bury himself in spreadsheets, now asked about their weekends. He brought in donuts. He joked with customers. A teenage girl buying a screen protector mentioned she played in a local pool league. Jeremy asked which format, 8 or 9-ball. Her eyes lit up. He drove home without the radio. He liked the quiet now. He didn't drink as much. Sometimes he caught himself smiling for no reason and didn't flinch when he saw it in the mirror. None of the trips changed Derek, but they were changing Jeremy. The man who used to line up every shot to win had started playing for connection. The game slowed down. His breath came easier. Mistakes didn't haunt him the way they used to. In the past, he tried to fix someone else. In the present, he was learning how to live with himself. The wormhole didn't flicker. It didn't shimmer or pulse or whisper secrets. It simply stayed tucked into the back room like it had always belonged there. Jeremy stood in front of it longer now before stepping through. Not from fear, but from a swelling sense of weight. He already knew what he'd find. The Brunswick Zone returned each time with its scuffed tiles, its gum-pocked arcade buttons, the buzz of fluorescent lights bouncing off polished tables. And Derek, always Derek, laughing like the years never happened, unaware of the man across from him trying to stitch something back together that never had the seams for it. Jeremy played to keep the rhythm. He lined up each break like it mattered, like if the cue ball struck the 1 ball clean enough, true enough, the impact might ripple backward through time and open a door where both of them could walk out free. But the air hung tighter around each visit. Derek's jokes sounded forced. His eyes scanned the room more often. He flinched when Jeremy leaned in. And still, Jeremy pushed. That night, they played 8-ball while Third Eye Blind dripped out of the jukebox in the corner. Jeremy chalked his cue, then paused. I used to think it was my fault, he said. Derek didn't look up. That we stopped talking. That I came out and you disappeared. The 8 hung alone near the corner pocket. Derek lined up the shot, missed on purpose. Jeremy kept going. I think you were scared because you saw yourself in me. Derek straightened. His face didn't move much, but his hands twitched where they gripped the cue. I didn't ask for this conversation, he said. You don't have to hide, not from me. Derek stepped back from the table. His voice dropped. You don't get to say that. I'm trying to... No, you're not. Derek's eyes burned, not with anger, but exhaustion. You're trying to save me, like I'm something broken you think you can fix if you're nice enough or patient enough or say the right thing. Jeremy went quiet. Derek's breath paused. You don't get to fix this. Jeremy opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The silence that followed held more truth than Jeremy knew how to carry. Derek walked out. He didn't slam the door. He didn't curse. He didn't look back. Jeremy stayed behind, cue in hand, heart strangled in his chest. No one else watched. No one else needed to. The table stood still, balls scattered, nothing pocketed. He didn't return to the present right away. Instead, he reset the balls for 9-ball. This time, he played alone. The Brunswick Zone fell away around him. The chatter faded. The lights dimmed in his mind until only the table remained. He moved quietly without ceremony. Each shot deliberate, clean. No misses, no flukes. The 9-ball sank with a whisper. Jeremy leaned on the table and stared at the felt. His throat tightened, but no sound escaped. The tears arrived without permission, falling onto the green like a second break. It was the best game he'd ever played. It didn't feel like winning, it felt like goodbye. The store closed on time that night. Rain streaked the windows in long diagonal lines, catching the orange glow of the parking lot lights. Jeremy didn't dust the glass. He didn't clean the counters or straighten the chargers near the register. He walked into the back room like he had every other time, but this time his feet moved slower. The air stood still. He reached for the panel, ready for the ripple, the pull, but none came. The space behind the wall remained unchanged, silent, plain. His chest tightened, but he didn't leave. Not yet. Then the ripple stirred. Not with urgency, not with promise, just enough to say, once more. When Jeremy opened his eyes, the Brunswick zone welcomed him again with its echo of neon and cheap detergent. The arcade whirred quietly in the background. A few teenagers slouched against pinball machines. The table lights buzzed above the felt. He found Derek in the lounge near the back, the area where the managers sometimes let them hang out when things were slow. The cushions still sagged. The same vending machine blinked green arrows where you inserted dollars. Derek sat hunched forward, flipping through a sports magazine, legs stretched out, shoulders heavier than they used to be. Jeremy sat beside him without speaking. The silence lasted a while. Eventually Derek said, "My dad caught me watching a movie with two guys kissing once." He didn't say anything then, just walked out. Jeremy waited. He canceled my ride to basketball camp the next day. Never mentioned why. Derek's fingers tightened on the edge of the magazine. Mom told me it was about money. I knew better. Jeremy let the words settle. Derek turned toward the carpet. "If I come out, I lose everything. Scholarships, my team, maybe my family. I can't live without any of that." "You'll get lonely," Jeremy said. Derek didn't nod, didn't cry, but something shifted in his expression like a knot inside him gave way. "I want to be honest. I want to be real, but I won't survive it." Jeremy looked at him, really looked, at the boy who used to laugh too loud, brag about trick shots, and ride his bike too fast. At the boy who once held his breath so tightly that Jeremy could still feel it in his own ribs decades later. "You don't owe anyone a timeline," he said. "But you deserve to love yourself. You always did." Derek looked up, never questioning why Jeremy spoke about him in the past tense. For a brief moment his eyes met Jeremy's with something that hovered between thanks and apology. They didn't speak again. Instead, they walked back to table 7. They played in silence. No trash talk, no bets, no scoreboard. Jeremy didn't aim to win. He lined up soft shots, let the rhythm carry them. The balls moved like they understood. Derek played better than he had in weeks. Not flashy, honest, steady. When the 8 finally dropped, neither of them smiled. Derek set the cue on the felt. Jeremy nodded once. They left the table behind. Back in the present, the store's back room stood quiet. The wall sat bare and indifferent. No ripple, no shimmer. The wormhole was gone. Jeremy placed his hand on the drywall. It felt like any other wall. Cold. Solid. He didn't panic. He didn't feel regret. He turned off the light, locked the store, and stepped into the rain with a kind of stillness he hadn't known in years. The break had come and gone, and he was still standing. The internet made it easy. A few searches, some cross-checking, an old high school basketball roster confirmed the name of the town. Derek lived in Indiana now. Married, 2 kids, church volunteer, regional sales manager for an appliance distributor. Jeremy stared at the screen for a while, not out of shock, not because he didn't expect it, but because everything he needed to know was already there, between the lines. The smile in the family photo looked slightly too stiff. The wedding announcement had been brief. The phrasing in the company bio circled around every personal detail like a dog around a shut door. There was no anger left in him. He closed the tab. Empathy filled the quiet space where bitterness used to live. Not the kind that made excuses, but the kind that held grief without turning it into blame. Derek stayed where it felt safest. Jeremy had stopped blaming him for that a long time ago. August arrived in Kalamazoo with a kind of softness. Jeremy had started walking to work. He talked more with his co-workers, laughed more, but not the hollow kind. He joined a local pool league at a bar downtown. They played 9-ball on Wednesday nights. He lost more than he won, but his shoulders never tensed like they used to. He scratched on the 9 once and still smiled. Something about that mattered. On Saturday afternoons, he volunteered at a community center off Vine Street. Mostly he helped stock supplies or clean up after group sessions. The teens noticed his calm more than his words. Some talked, some didn't. He didn't push. One afternoon, he found himself at the rec room table with a boy named Elijah, who gripped the cue like it might bite him. "You don't have to sink it," Jeremy said. "Just line it up. That's the first step." Elijah stared at the table. The cue ball sat a few feet from the 5. The shot was awkward, but not impossible. His hands trembled. "I always mess up." Jeremy crouched beside him, keeping his voice low. "That's all right." Elijah glanced at him. "Yeah, but everyone else here knows what they're doing. I feel like I'm behind." Jeremy nodded. "Let me show you something." He picked up the chalk, handed it to Elijah. "This is for focus, not perfection. Take a breath. Look at the angles." Elijah hesitated, then leaned over the table, arms tense. "Forget the 5 for now," Jeremy said. "Watch how the cue moves. Notice what feels easy, what feels heavy. Every player's different." The boy adjusted his grip, took a breath, missed the shot, but not by much. Jeremy smiled. "Better." Elijah sighed. "I still missed." Jeremy leaned on the table, watching the cue ball come to rest. The felt glowed under the lights, a soft green he had come to love again. "It's not about winning," he said. "It's about learning what kind of player you are." Elijah looked at him, unsure, but calmer. Jeremy racked another game. And in that small, quiet space between turns, he realized he hadn't come back to fix the past. He'd come back to learn how to carry it.
Please make sure you are subscribed and be one of the strange.